today I will not start a new lesson. I will focus on certain concepts which are very important for development communication. It is fine, no? It is fine. It's not yet audible. It's not working. I think it's working. Please do follow. It is working on it. Okay. So you have written about participatory rural communication appraisal, right? But participatory rural appraisal and participatory rural communication appraisal are two different things. Okay, which are uh, equal to what we understand about communication need-based assessment and communication-based assessment. Okay, so that distinction is very important to understand. Apart from that, what I'm going to emphasize is on the liberation pedagogy, which is very important for all of you to understand the theatre of the oppressed. If we look into the community media, all of you might have heard about the theatre of the oppressed. This is based on the liberation theology, and it is important to understand the liberation theology because you people are already engaged in it. Okay, what is the philosophy behind this is important to know and make yourself aware of. Okay, so you heard about the Paulo Freire. We simply understand him as the father of participatory communication. Okay, so when we say participatory communication, it is actually different from behavioral change communication. Let me tell you, behavioral change communication is directed messages towards bringing some changes, behavioral change, attitudinal change of the people, and it is top down. It's highly authoritative, and there is also subject-object relation. But when we talk about the participatory communication, it always focuses on subject-subject relationship, right? When it focuses on subject-subject relationship, it focuses on social mobilization, it focuses on social action, it focuses on the knowledge of the community. We actually see that it involves the liberation of the masses. And hence we say that Paulo Freire is the father of participatory communication, participatory rural communication appraisal. Now you see participatory rural appraisal, these are grammatical methodologies through which you analyze the community's problem, constraints, various needs, level of awareness, and you also give a solution to those problems. But participatory rural communication appraisal is integrating the communication based needs along with the community needs, problems, issues, and constraints. So it is integrating the community network, existing community network, ICT exposure, television exposure, radio exposure, level of information, level of awareness that is generated through communication in one village. Okay, and hence it is integrating the communication component in it. And both PRA and PRCA are part of participatory communication, and father of participatory communication is Paulo Freire. That's how we understand. We also understand the liberation pedagogy, many a time we call it theology. What is liberation? When we say liberation, it is basically it is a state we feel ourselves free from internal and external control. Now you see that when you talk about the control itself is a term which is highly Western centric. So here we actually see that in India we talk about Hinduism, we talk about Buddhism, we also talk about Muslim, and this is also a syncretic view and religious view to look into development. Now you see liberation theology, which came from the West, how can we also interpret in a space or in a place which is endogenic in nature, which is highly like community oriented, right? So here we actually focus on certain Indian values, and Indian values comes from those religion. So there is also one say, it is that the whether we can look independent of religion when we think of development, or whether we can think of development without thinking of religion. Many a time when you talk about even the agendas of political party, you see that religion is integrated with the development. Now you see they make it a propaganda. Okay, so their intention is not to bring the goodness of the religion. So religion also bestow us various virtues. Okay, but you see, many a time we can think about development independent of, like, dependent on religion, not independent of religion. So when we talk about Western centric view, we also say that Western centric view is not completely independent of religion. Okay, so we have certain examples also. And hence, I'm actually trying to synthesize here instead of making you very focused upon what I'm communicating. But we are basically trying to understand the liberation theology here, spiritually how liberated you are, personally how liberated you are, politically how liberated you are, culturally how liberated you are is very important to understand in order to contribute to development of the society. Okay, so when you talk about liberation, we actually see free from all kind of tutelage, all kind of external control. Okay, and control is also Western centric view. It is called Aristotelian views. When you talk about the control, in next semester, we will be learning about the power, empowerment, more about control and choices. Because in politics, we learn more about control and power. But in development also, we see how control and power will work. Huh. So, many a time we see the Buddhist views and also Hindus' views of religion focus on the choices rather than the control. And Hinduism has been growing. Okay, and also you see that it has integrating in it different kind of facets over the time. So it is not a very static one. Hinduism is not about Manusmriti. Let me tell you, when you talk about Manusmriti version of Hinduism, that is highly orthodox. Hinduism is not Manusmriti, so it is uh, more about those three virtues we call about that karma, artha, and kama. So when you talk about this karma, that is what? The consequence of your actions, which is very important. Artha, that is your material possessions, which is also important to achieve liberation at the same time, to have a dignified life and self-worth. And when you talk about the kama, here we are not talking about the animal pleasure here. Okay, so you need to think about a balance of all those legal principalities in Hinduism. Hindu also believe in the caste system, but you see that over the years, we actually have a different philosophy to understand how there is also upward mobility in the class and caste. So there is an upward mobility, and this upward mobility was also, first cited in the West. In West, there is ecclesial movement happened in Brazil and Latin America. In that movement, it actually shows it thrown away the tutelage of those pope and kings. He said that without having a pope and a priest, our people can also learn the, the preachers and learn the scriptures and can preach. So it is all about bring yourself train and practice it. Okay, so instead of having, you see, restricted and restrain yourself into the given occupational role in the scriptures, and you see the over the years it has changed. So Hinduism has also adopted it, but we do not know. Many political parties, even like existing ruling elite, they do not know the change in Hinduism. So which is actually upcoming. In few in few areas, if you talk about even this in Majuli and all, some that uh, it is not a conversion. Shift in that Hinduism is seen. They're trying to integrate people and trying to teach them about the tenets of Hinduism and make them liberated. So earlier you said that only the Gupha people and those priests, they are the one who can teach, right? Who can be the Katha Bachak. Now they are training even the missing people, tribal people. They also turn out to be a Katha Bachak. You see, so that is also another kind of, you see, approach to understand Hinduism. So even when they are training those tribal people, they are also trying to infuse development. Their overall, it is not about infusing religious doctrine, but the overall upliftment of that community, what they are doing, what are their livelihoods, and trying to integrate Hinduism with their livelihood. Okay, so that vision was initially laid by Mahatma Gandhi. We talk about Sarvodaya movement, and this Sarvodaya movement was also, you see, replicated in Sri Lanka. We have Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya is essentially related to Shramdan. Shramdan, you can give donation of your labor, capital, time and other resources. That is what is Shramdan. Shramdan is not typically related to labor, but for uneducated, underdeveloped, marginalized people, they can relate more to labor donation. This is Shramdan. But it is also equated with resource donation. We talk about time donation and then energy donation, Shramdan movement. It was there, it was initiated by Ariyarante in 1958 in Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, Shramdan is equated with Buddhism. But here in India, Mahatma Gandhi started in 1912, the Sarvodaya movement was started. And it is equated with Swadesi. Before 1912, 1905, we have actually Swadesi movement. It is trying to bring in the immediate resources of the neighborhood and to cultivate the best out of it. So what are the immediate resources of the neighborhood? So we're trying to bring it, trying to mobilize those resources and then earn profit from for it. And if you want to earn profit and distribute the benefit of the profit across the community people. So that was the basic concept of Sarvodaya. And in Arihante's Sarvodaya movement, which we get to find in Sri Lanka in 1958, uh, we also get to find the liberation, the ideas and ideology of liberation theology in it. Okay, and that movement was based on the Buddhist tenets. When you talk about the Buddhism, here in India also we have a well spread of Buddhism. We talk about those views, right concentration, right livelihood, right effort, okay, right choice, and right thought. So we have some principalities in our life through which we can achieve goodness and we can also bring goodness for the people. And that's what is the religiosity in development. And then also we see that it is very important to understand about four important facets in liberation theology. This is actually beyond religion. So it is all about accepting. So accepting the subjectivity, that means you are accepting your reality. So what is your reality? If you do not understand your reality, if you actually have a false consciousness, you cannot be liberated. And that's what we are doing. Consumerism, globalization, capitalism, liberalism have already uh, engulf our life in such a way that we are enslaved of it. We do not see the reality. Okay, so what is reality then? Reality is not only about material possessions. Okay, so when we talk about liberation pedagogy or liberation theology, reality is not about material possession all the time, but material possession which is required to have a dignified life, required to have a sustaining life, required to sustain that dignity. Okay, and hence you need to have those material possession, but it is not more than what you need. Okay, that's what liberation is all about. And when you talk about the liberation, so you need to accept the reality. It is sad that it is very important, even if reality is full of fear, full of insecurity, full of, you see, exploitations and oppressions. You need to accept this. First is the acceptance, and then you move on. You know that this is the reality, you move on. Now, second is the optimism. You said liberalism. That is also one kind of, you see, philosophy behind it is the optimism, hope that this risk and danger will be erased. Third is the cynical pessimism. So bring out humor out of it. It's very, very important. You actually bring out the humor of this kind of reality. That is a cynical pessimism. And then radical engagement, this is the last stage. So radical engagement, that you need to be very agile and radically engaged to bring change. So in second stage, you have that hope. So you continue and sustain that hope. Right? You continue that hope, continue that optimism that even if there are risks, there are dangers, it will fade away, it will die down. So you continue that hope, and for that you need to engage yourself radically, and that is the liberation ideology or liberation theology set. So when you talk about the liberation, let me tell you that we want to make ourselves politically free first. We want to make ourselves personally liberated, personally free. We want to make ourselves spiritually free. So first, you see that most of the time we all are enslaved of this ego, So why it is called theology? Because this kind of gospel you get to find even in religions. So we are all subdued with ego, subdued with some insecurities. Everybody, each of us have subdued with basic instinct. We are driven by that instinct and react. Okay, instead of that wisdom. Okay, so at one point of time, instead of using reason, we are also driven by irrational emotions. Emotion is also very important at the same time, just like it is important. Logic is important, reason is important, but irrational emotion is not, uh, should not get a space in liberation. Okay, so when you talk about liberation, spiritual liberation, that means you actually make yourself aware who you are. Okay, which is very important. Many a time we do not know who you are. Suppose somebody asks me, why don't you participate in that movement? So whatever is going on. So I have some limitations, and one thing also I know that I have that activist string in my mind. So if I start sitting with these people, then a different cult, different personality will come out. But I'm living a different life now. I have children, I have a family. So partially I could come, but that support I'm giving to this movement. That partial support is there. Without my presence also, I can give that support to that movement. But I know that I have that activist, that streak in me. So I know many people do not know. So not each and everyone have that activistic. So you see that when you talk about that self-awareness, it is very important to make yourself aware and conscious about who you are. Okay, it's important. Second, you talk about cultural liberation. Cultural liberation, we imitate the dominant culture. but we don't value the indigenous culture. Right, it has been happening. Okay. So, how to make yourself culturally liberated, you also know. Hmm? How to make yourself culturally liberated. You should not consider your language inferior. You should not consider your music primitive. You should not consider, uh, you see, your art backward. Okay. So, whatever you have, possess it and also express it creatively. That's what is cultural liberation. So, whatever you have. Okay, so that is cultural liberation. So, we talk about political liberation. Political liberation is all about having the voice and agency. We are talking about the agency here in liberation. So, having a voice and agency is very important. So when you see that agency means you're taking part in any decision making, like context. So most of the time we don't take any decisions, okay, and we are not even asked. So liberation theology believes in participatory communication, and hence it always prefers dialogic communication. At any cost, through dialogic communication, it gives emphasis on equity. It gives emphasis equity of resource distribution, benefit distribution, equity in terms of, you see, the um, dialogue. Okay, dialogue should not be dialogue. No, decision should not be imposed. Rather, it should be asked. Okay, we can talk across the table, but most of the important decisions are taken in a monologic way by those who are holding the power, and this is highly Aristotelian style, and which is far away from liberation. So, in liberation theology, we can equate Buddhism, Hinduism more. These two like in religion, we can equate more with the liberation theology, uh, uh, more than Christianity. Okay, then we actually see that here in Aristotelian side, he is speaking about the that asymmetrical relationship between the ruler and the ruled. In Aristotelian's style, he is talking about the rhetoric. So you'll be learning rhetoric when we discuss about political communication, rhetoric, how political actors are presenting. They are also communicating to masses. So it's all about rhetoric. So he actually emphasized upon the asymmetrical relationship. But here in Buddhism, we talk about symmetrical relationship, which is based on the choice. It is based on understanding of the idea, any idea, not about getting acceptance without understanding the idea. So you first idea accept, you have the privilege of accepting and rejecting any idea in Buddhist theology, which is also equated to liberation theology. Okay, so we can actually see that your choice to accept and reject an idea should be valued in liberation theology. But here in Aristotelian theology, you can understand, you are supposed to accept only, you are not supposed to reject that idea. Okay, so that is the control dynamics in monologic communication. You cannot reject it. The disagreements are not entertained. You are one among us, you are supposed to follow us. Okay, so that is Aristotelian ideology. But if you look into Buddhism, which is very familiar to our cult, Hinduism also, because it is expanding, it is also giving us a lot of choices. We cannot even say that we are still ingrained with that Varnashram Dharma. People who are ignorant, people who are not personally liberated, people who are spiritually not spiritually liberated, can say that they are still ingrained with that Varnashram Dharma. Just because they do not have exposure to knowledge, they do not have exposure to actual wisdom. Okay, and you can say people, those can be people from your household who even who are like at ruling elite or politically higher up, who are working for the people. They might be also ignorant. You never know. because you are driven by that ego, you are driven by that inferiority complex, driven by that instinct and insecurity. So that will not make you liberate yourself. Okay, so it is important for you to understand the importance of religiosity in development. Okay, in order to understand the holistic nature of development. Okay, and then uh, we talk about theater of the oppressed. Theater of the oppressed is also one, I see, one vehicle of liberation pedagogy, and it is also one example of liberation pedagogy. If you see, when you see theater of the oppressed, you actually see varieties of theater, variety of form of theaters. So theater, we come from a proscenium, a stage-based theater, which is very restricted, because restricted in terms of space. There is also restriction in terms of the prop, makeup, costumes. Okay, restrictions are there in terms of ideology. But when you talk about the theater of the oppressed, we are bringing theater closer to the masses. So it includes street theater, it includes image theater, it includes forum theater, it includes newspaper theater, it includes even rainbow of desire. Okay, so it includes third theater. Now you see that third theater is a concept which is initiated here in India. It is not initiated in the West. So in West we have a proscenium theater, stage-based theater, which actually restrict the audience only as a spectator. They can behave as a spectator. They can come, they can watch the theater, they can enjoy the theater, and that is it. But when we talk about the third theater came in India in 1971, and the co-founder of third theater is Badal Sirkar. Okay, so we have Badal Sirkar who talked about the nature of third theater, which is highly flexible. Flexible in the sense that it brings the best of the East and the West. Okay, so if we talk about the best of the West, it has also got the, you see, the performance uh, and the importance of body from the West. So, in any Western ideology, even in Aristotelian ideology, you will find more emphasis on mind and body rather than the self, rather than soul. So, this soul based or self concept is there in Hinduism and even in Indian knowledge system. We are talking more about soul centric search or self instead of body and the mind. Okay, so in Buddhism also it has a different interpretation of body and the mind. Okay, but at the same time, when we talk about the third theater, it is an amalgamation of West and East, and here we talking, and we will find that we get the body, the concept of body from the West, and we also get the live performance of the East. Now you see, in East we have folk theaters. We have folk theaters, performance of Ramayana, Mahabharata, right? Um, and different types of theater we have in village setup. We have different types of theater. Bauna is one kind of theater. So basically, those are live performances, right? So we actually bring that live performance to the body concept to make our body so flexible that we can work we can act as a prop, we can also act as a costume at the same time. So it's all about making your body flexible. Okay, so you don't have to make your theater more expensive, focusing on stage, focusing on, you see, those costumes, makeup and props. But in West, when they are trying to manipulate the body, they're actually focusing more on the costumes. The outer uh, part of the theater. Okay, that costumes, what will they wear? And also you see makeup. There are also very, you see, very sharp, strong makeup they usually will wear, and then you also see the way they, you see, opera shows and all, wear the costumes. So it's completely different from Indian even traditions. But in Bauna, we also have different costumes altogether. But that live performance, the element of live performance, at once did not actually have. Many a time people also read the script, and many a time people don't read the script, they act the way they, like, they are. So that live performance element is very, you see, Indianized according to Badal Sirkar. So Badal Sirkar has got the live performance and body from the west, live performance from the east, and tried to make the third theatre. And third theatre is basically a flexible, an inexpensive space. You can also include street theatre into the third theatre. Now, when you see street theatre, not all third theatres are street theatres, but street theatre in a way is also a third theatre. Okay, we also have other forms of theatre. We talk about forum theatre. Forum theatre is also one kind of street theatre. You might make it a forum among the audiences. Here, when you talk about the live performance, you give more emphasis on audience. That's how you are creating that connection with the audience. That is relatable to Indian setup. In West, audience are not connected with the performers. Audience are only spectators. But here, we don't accept audience as passive spectators. We accept audience as active spectators as well as performers. Okay, and hence when you talk about the forum theatre, we talk about newspaper theatre, when you use the clippings of newspaper, features, report, facts, anything uh, which could be relatable to our day-to-day and everyday life situation can be brought up, can be acted upon. And then a discourse could be created among the audiences on those various, you see, burning issues which you have got from the um, newspaper, which is being reported in the newspaper. Okay, so on the basis of the newspaper um, report, headlines, you can bring headlines also. So you can enact, you can develop characters, you can focus on the problem, and then you ask for solution to the audience. Audience can come up and enact the solutions. Like the, like same way, we also have forum theatre. In forum, we actually create, in forum theatre, we create a forum for discussion. Same, newspaper theatre is also a kind of forum theatre. So in forum theatre, we try to create a forum among the performer and the audiences. Forum, that forum for discussion, forum for activism, forum for political discourse we want to create. So we bring in any issues. Those performer will perform those characters, perform characters, and also try to tell people this, the problem, the burning issue which society is facing without giving any solution. Then someone from the audience is expected to come and give a solution, an alternative solution to their performance. You see now, this is the alternative solution. They can take the same characters, but they will present it in a different way. Okay, even through theatrical performance, they try to create a forum. Now, even you bring up headlines, you are trying to create a forum through theatrical performance. Okay, you are trying to make people involved in it. So these are some examples of, you see, theatre of the oppressed. So theatre of the oppressed is a very important term. It is also said that you need to understand your reality, you need to accept your reality. If you are oppressed, accept that you are being oppressed. You understand what are the reasons of being oppressed. It is very important to understand. Otherwise, you will keep yourself getting exploited all the time. Okay, and hence there is an importance of liberation theology. It's important. This is not about making you excited or not. This is an operations doctrine, operations voice and version. People said, now also you see the political leader will say, anything contradictory you say against the government will say that you are making people excited. So people are supposed to be excited. People are supposed to question. People are supposed to be liberated. People are supposed to know. Otherwise, you be accountable to them. Right. So it's very important to understand the situation, you accept it. When you accept it, then only you have the strength to move on. Okay. So many a time out of ego and out of that illusion we don't accept. We think that if we say that okay, we are being oppressed, it is not about victimization. It is not about making yourself victim all the time. No. It is all about having a voice. It is important. Okay, you are not victim, you deny to be a victim and hence you give a voice. You raise a voice. This is the principle of liberation theology. Why it is called theology? This is also related to your personal well-being and spirituality. So spiritually also you need to liberate yourself. Okay? Spiritually liberate yourself in the sense that you need to develop that consciousness. So in Marxist doctrine, we understand about false consciousness. What is that false consciousness? Through consumerism, it tries to create, capitalism tries to create false consciousness. Okay. And there is also a class consciousness. We need to buy this and having that consciousness, buy this just because someone else is also having that. That is also a kind of consciousness. Okay, you are imitating their values. You are not imitating what you have found from the root. Okay, why you are imitating it? Okay, so there is class consciousness. Class consciousness is important, but most of the time, class is subdued with that false consciousness. So because of that marketing agenda, now you see that this agenda related to Jubinka, what is happening everywhere you get to see, it is the issue has been politicized. You do not know what is happening. You want the truth. If you are following it, if you are not following it, then it's a different thing altogether. If you are following it, but you see that we do not know. So we also, because you see that our life has been somehow, you see, stopped somewhere. I feel, you may not feel, but I feel that my life has been stopped. When I listen to that, I feel that no, something is not going right. I also feel. And every day, I take some time to even ponder on it, to think, to read some post, and to follow up what is happening. And perhaps until and unless he gets the justice, I'll do that. Yesterday I find that there is a video. Initially also I went through the video. I watched that video. In that video I found that Sandeepan Garg, who is Zubin's cousin, he actually stopped Zubin not to jump into the water. No, you don't jump. Okay, I found that. So I really don't know what is happening. Again, he is also that the whole issue is full of mystery. You cannot blame anyone in this scenario. So we want justice, but we don't want people to get killed also. We want people to get killed. We don't want anyone to get killed. We don't want anyone. From my side to I don't want anyone to be encountered. And then say that okay, we have given justice to Jubin. So that is also one thing. So like that way, most of the time we are approached. We are not even known because we are not informed. Okay, and we are given the selective informations, and that's how we are being manipulated. Okay, so we need to give a voice to voice. We need to raise a voice. And we stop looking from the oppressors' lens. It is very important looking from the oppressors' lens. Rather, you question. It is very important. Okay. So it is also to get yourself uh, read get rid of those false consciousness and try to understand what is your actual consciousness and what your conscience says. Is very important. And it is also very, like, ethically and morally correct. You see, pedagogy, it is a pedagogy. When you talk about forum theatre, it's a pedagogy, it's a way of teaching, it's a way of educating. Why we call it liberation pedagogy? Why we call it liberation theology? It involves that religiosity, that spirituality, hence we call it liberation theology. Why we call it liberation pedagogy? Because it is also a way to teach people, inspire people, to educate people about their condition, their lifestyle, their situation, about the iniquitous relationship in the society. So educating people, you are creating a forum, making and giving a platform to voiceless to voice out, and you are the facilitators. You are showing them this is the scenario. Now we have a solution, but you better come and give a solution to it. And if you want to adapt more to this problem, you can also enact and adapt more to the problem. If we are talking about the problem of privatization of hospital, maybe you have an issue of privatization of public hospital. This is a issue, and you actually see that scenarios in public hospital. There is a very unhygienic situation in the hospital, and there is lack of doctors. Doctors won't visit on time, and the infrastructures are also very poor, and there is no hygiene at all. Nurse and commanders are there, but they are at times uh, taking over doctors and taking doctors' roles. Okay, and then you can also show that there is a scenario where government is facilitating a football match between the public hospitals and private hospitals, and government want private hospitals to win. Okay, and a propaganda that government have that okay, we actually want you to visit private hospitals. A patient coming with their own problem, saying that I went to public hospital. Another scenario you can show, the patient coming saying that I went to public hospital. I could actually experience this. There is no doctors, and my daughter, my sister, also is dying almost. Then doctor giving advice, you go to private hospital, you will get all the comfort in that hospital. Then he asks that there is no money. Okay, then that you have to manage. I can't. Yeah. So it actually shows the failure of public, like in a hospital, and government are also trying to liberalize the public undertakings or also institutions. So that's how you can solve the problem. Now you can ask for a solution from the audience. You come and give us a solution. And if you face a problem like this, you can also, through song, through poem, through announcement, you can do that. You can ask audience to come in and add to the problem of failure of public hospital system. And they will come with an alternative. So this is a liberation, you see, pedagogy and theatre of the oppressed. Theatre of the oppressed is a part of liberation pedagogy. Okay. Rainbow of desire. Rainbow of desire is another method of theatre of the oppressed. When you can put different color to your internalized emotion. Suppose fear, you can give fear a color like black. Okay. Then jealousy, maybe purple. Greed, uh, maybe green. Then wisdom, maybe yellow. Okay. Uh, like that way, you can give different shades of color to those internalized emotions, and you can play with the emotions and bringing up a situation like domestic violence, women, and the kind of insecurity. You will make her wear a complete insecurity can be associated with you might say insecure, blue maybe. Okay, fear is equated to black and blue. Insecurity is also kind of yeah, gray. You can put that gray. Greed is also equated to gray. Okay, so you can make her wear this. So then also try to face any kind of internalized emotions. Or you can also say these are our props which we use. The kind of internalized emotions which people cannot even speak up. Okay, so you find that this is the scenario. So which color you will choose? So this is a rainbow of desire. So desire in the sense that we are driven by the desire and we internalize it. Right, we internalize the fear, we internalize the desire, we internalize the instinct at times. So that actually put a shadow to our wisdom. Okay, hence there are rainbows of desire, but that actually made us suppressed, not liberated. So अभी liberation मतलब ये नहीं है कि सन्यास हो जाओ. You are not supposed to become a sage, right? Okay, but liberating yourself from your very that fear, peer pressure in among students. This is one, like instinct, peer pressure. They're driven by peer pressure. So you're not free at all because you're driven by peer pressure every time. So if somebody will say that you are crazy, then definitely he also told me that I'm crazy. What's the point? Somebody told you crazy, it's fine. No, you have got a like an adjective, but you'll try your best to prove that you are not crazy. Are you liberated? No. Okay, so it is important. Okay.